Let's take a look at division with divisors up to 10. The library is getting rid of 62 old books. Two people come in and take all the books, dividing them equally. How many books does each person get? Okay, well, if we have 62 books divided by two people, we would think of that as 62 divided by 2. Now, since we're just dividing by 2, you can think of that as half, right? You might know off the top of your head or be able to simply say, well, what's half of 62? If you can go ahead and fill it in. If you need to think about that one a little bit, what you can do is write it this way, 62 divided by 2. And this makes the problem a little easier because when you write it as long division, now you can think of each digit, right? We can just say, instead of how many times does 2 go into 62, you can think, well, how many times does 2 go into just 6, right? We're taking it one digit at a time. Well, 2 goes into 6 3 times, right? 2 times 3 is exactly 6, so we have nothing left over. And then we can bring down the 2 and say, how many times does 2 go into 2? Well, 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 times 1 is 2, so we have nothing left over. So either way, whether you said half of 62 is 31, or whether you set up your long division, either way, we get 31 books per person. Sydney purchases a box of 66 donuts. She divides those donuts among 3 friends evenly. How many donuts does each friend get? Okay, well, 66 donuts divided evenly among 3 friends means we want to figure out 66 divided by 3. Okay, and if you need a little work to figure that out, of course you can write it this way, 66 divided by 3, and then you can take it one digit at a time. So how many times does 3 go into 6? Well, 3 goes into 6 2 times, because 3 times 2 is exactly 6. Okay, well, that leaves us with nothing left over, so we can bring down our next digit of 6. 3 goes into 6 exactly 2 times, right? Again, gives us exactly 6 when we say 3 times 2, so we have nothing left over. So 66 divided by 3 is 22, or they get 22 donuts per friend. Emma decides to get rid of her old video game cartridges. She has 88 in all. If she divides them between 4 friends evenly, how many video game cartridges does each friend get? Okay, well, if she has 88 total and she's dividing them by 4 friends, we would say 88 divided by 4. Okay, and if you need a little help to figure that out, of course you can write it this way, 88 divided by 4, and then just take it one digit at a time. So we're thinking, how many times does 4 go into that first digit of 8? Well, 4 goes into 8 2 times, because 4 times 2 is exactly 8. Okay, so we have nothing left over there. We're going to bring down our second digit of 8, and then it's essentially the same thing again, right? How many times does 4 go into 8? Well, 4 goes into 8 2 times, right? We just said that was exactly 8, so there's nothing left over. So 88 divided by 4 gives us 22, or there's 22 game cartridges per friend. Noah bakes a cake, which he slices up into 64 pieces. If Noah divides them among 2 plates to give to 2 neighbors, how many pieces of cake does each neighbor get? Okay, well, he has 64 pieces total, and he's dividing it evenly by 2 for his 2 neighbors. Okay, now since we're dividing by 2, of course you can think of that as half, right? You might be able to say off the top of your head, what's half of 64? That's one way to answer this. If you need to think it through a little bit, of course you can write it this way, 64 divided by 2, and then you can take it one digit at a time. Well, how many times does 2 go into 6? 2 goes into 6 3 times, 2 times 3 is exactly 6. So that gives us nothing left over, and we would bring down the 4. And then you can think, well, how many times does 2 go into 4? 2 goes into 4 2 times, right? 2 times 2 is exactly 4, so we have nothing left over. So whether you said half of 64 or whether you set it up as a long division problem, either way, we get 64 divided by 2 is 32, or there's 32 pieces of cake per neighbor.